With us this morning is one of the most knowledgeable guys, one of the smartest guys I've ever met in Washington. His name is former Speaker Newt Gingrich. Good morning, Newt Gingrich. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well, and it's great to talk to you. It's always fun you do such an informative show.
Hey, we want to keep America knowing what's going on. And you know what I do? I give people the ability to talk, not just what NBC does or ABC go, short questions and et cetera, et cetera. Tell us what happened. We have a new judge. What happened on Friday? What do you think? I mean, the Democrats, why did they allow it to go the nuclear option?
Well, look, I think that they are caught up and have really had a remarkable problem. They had, on the one hand, if they were going to try to filibuster Gorsuch, they had the problem that Harry Reid had already broken the filibuster for all of the lower judicial offices, and so the precedent had been set. On the other hand, if they didn't filibuster Gorsuch and he went through, the next time it was going to come up, they're going to have to filibuster the next one while Trump is still in office, because that's the one that will change the entire balance of power in the court. And so what you ended up with was a lose-lose, and their radical activist base would not allow them to back off. They would not allow them to try to hide from the fight. And so the radical base said, look, even if it's Custer's last stand, we want you to stand right there and get slaughtered. And so they did. And I think their base was happy with the fight, even if in the long run it didn't do them any good. Now, what's ironic, as you know, I do 2 newsletters a week that are free at Gingrich Productions. The one I'm going to do next Tuesday is on the history of the filibuster, because it turns out that back when Jefferson was the vice president and therefore president of the Senate, they didn't have a filibuster. You talk about the founding fathers. The fact is there was no filibuster. Everything moved by majority rule, and the filibuster is not really developed until 1841 by John C. Calhoun, who develops it in defense of slavery. So, ironically, all of these liberals running around bemoaning the loss of the filibuster, they're describing an institution which was created in defense of slavery. And the fact is that the original model of the required vote having a supermajority is in 1917. So you've been a country from 1789 to 1917. They finally create a supermajority in 1917, and they've had it for 100 years, and now it's dying. To me, it's very clear that in the very, very near future, you're going to see this thing wiped out, because once you break through for the judicial appointments, the next stage is going to be breaking through for the legislative stuff. And frankly, when I look at the damage that Senate rules are doing to health reform, because they have this very arcane idea of a reconciliation bill narrowly defined by the parliamentarian. As far as I'm concerned, as somebody who served in the House, remember, I'm not a senator, but as somebody who served in the House, I really believe we would be dramatically better off to go to just being able to get things done without this kind of baloney.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. I mean, what did you think, in your opinion? You were the former Speaker of the House. Did Ryan fail, or was the card stacked up against him?
Well, I think it's very hard to do health reform. We were involved when I was a very junior member. I was involved in Reagan's great tax cuts, which launched the economy and created 19 million new jobs. Well, even giving away money took us until August. I was involved with welfare reform, which was a 90% issue. That took us 18 months to do. And even when Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi decided to do Obamacare, it took them about 8 months. So these guys were trying this year to rush through something which you probably can't rush. And I think they're going to have to take a deep breath, step back, go slower. They can get it done. but it's not going to be an automatic or an easy thing. And I think this always surprises people. I think it requires listening to each other. I think you've got to be in a position where I have to respect you, and I want to know what you need in order for you to be able to vote yes. I need to know what you can't have in the bill if you're going to vote yes. You need to have the same relationship back to me then and say, all right, what is it that I have to vote yes? They didn't go through that kind of, and it's very slow and it's very frustrating. But I described it as listen, learn, help, and lead. And every time I've seen it done like that, you just get dramatically better results.
I think that disappointed President Trump a little bit, that they weren't able to get something done so they can take it to a reconciliation with the Senate.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. And frankly, he was right, I think, to be disappointed. There's no question that they should have done a better job than they did. Now they're going to have to go back and do it again. I mean, this is not an issue you're going to be able to get away from. It's going to be there. It's 1/5 of the economy. It's life and death for every American. And that's just a fact. It's going to be there as an issue for a long time.
Let's move on to Syria. It looks like President Trump has universal support. What do you think?
Well, I would say except for North Korea, Russia, and Iran, almost everybody has come on and said, you know, it's great to have a leader. I mean, the contrast between the way in which you saw that being developed by Barack Obama, you know, let me give 5 more speeches and do nothing. Trump had said all through the campaign, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to give you forewarning. They had one brief statement by Trump, one brief statement by Secretary of State Tillerson. 24 hours later, 59 cruise missiles hit the airfield in Syria. That was real. And they did it, by the way, not by negotiating with the Russians, but by informing the Russians that they'd better get out of the way because this was going to happen and we weren't going to wait for them. And I think that was a substantial shock to Putin and to the Russians. And it also reminded people just who the most powerful country in the world is. And the fact is, it's not Russia. That we're vastly more powerful than the Russians are.
Now, President Trump had dinner a couple of days ago with Chinese President Xi. Do you think he whispered in his ear that if North Korea pushed him anymore, that something similar could happen?
Well, I don't think he had to whisper to him. Remember, he was at dinner with Xi while the bombs were hitting the Syrian airfield. He took a brief break, went out, read his statement, and went back to dinner. I think the Chinese were very shaken. I think they'd never seen anything quite like that. And I think it got Reagan did this in. You may remember back in 1981 when the Libyans said that the Gulf of Sidra had a line of death, and if we crossed it, that we would die. And Reagan authorized the U.S. Navy to package 2 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, and they flew into the Gulf and shot down 2 Libyan aircraft. And the next day, Reagan was asked, this is right after Jimmy Carter and weakness and confusion, and a reporter said to Reagan, did they wake you to tell you what happened? And he said, oh, no. He said, we have an agreement. If we shoot them down, I sleep all night. If they shoot us down, wake me. That was so startling to the reporters, and that's why if you go out to the Reagan library, you will see that they have an F-14, one of the planes that had been used in shooting down the Libyans. They have an F-14 sitting there as a reminder of what dealing with Reagan had been like and how tough he was. But he wasn't a giant risk taker. It was calculated. It was careful. And that's exactly what you're seeing, I think, with President Trump, that what he did in Syria was a very calculated, very thought out, and I think very prudent series of steps.
I agree with you 100%. And it seems like his popularity is going up overnight.
I think people felt relieved to finally have a genuine leader who was not afraid and who was prepared to do what was necessary.
Now, you have done wonderful things in America. You had the last budget that it was not only balanced, that had a surplus. You did that with President Bill Clinton. And then you have documentary from George Washington, which was wonderful. Now you have put your sights on Federal Hall. Can you tell America a little bit about Federal Hall?
Well, I think Federal Hall is the wonderful building in which Washington was sworn in as the first president of the United States. It is a magnificent facility. It's right down there, very close to the harbor. It's available as a public facility. People can visit it. And I certainly hope to be doing some events at Federal Hall. And I think that it's something that should be developed both as a tourist attraction, but also as a learning center. This is one of the great places. It's a little bit like Williamsburg or Mount Vernon. It's a great place to learn about what made America unique. And when you go down into that part of the city and you realize how much history of the Revolutionary War, of the creation of the country, of the first presidency, so many things that we now are used to, the creation of a cabinet, the inaugural ceremony, all of these things were created right there at Federal Hall, and we grew from there. And so I think it's a remarkable facility. It's been sadly underused, and I think that we really now have an opportunity, I think, to develop that into something every New Yorker and every American can be proud of.
You know, Newt, you do so many wonderful things for our country and to remind people of our history, which is so important. And, you know, our kids don't learn enough about it in school, and you're out there pushing that, and that's wonderful things.
Well, thank you for that. And, of course, with Callista and her Ellis the Elephant books, which teach 4 to 8-year-olds American history, and her newest one will come out this fall, will be Remember the Ladies, about the president's wives. And then the movie she and I make together, The First American, which you've been so helpful with, and which I hope we'll be able to show at Federal Hall at some point this spring. I mean, there's so many really cool things going on. And I hope people realize that this is a unique country, and part of what makes America a unique country is its history and the people who have spent their lives trying to create this opportunity for greatness for all of us. No matter where we come from and no matter what our original beginning, America is a place where everybody can live their dream if they're willing to work hard and be persistent.
Before we sign off this Sunday morning, anything else you want to tell the American people?
I just want to say that I hope that as you think about the first 100 days for President Donald J. Trump, that you'll also ask yourself, what would the first 100 days have been like if it had been Hillary Clinton? And I think you'll see then how huge the difference is, and I think it really would be remarkable.
Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, thank you so much for being with us this Sunday morning, and we hope to see you again real soon.
Thanks. Take care now.